Bank is committed to being a leader in supporting women, including women-owned and women-led businesses through the Scotiabank Women Initiative. The Scotiabank Women Initiative is about empowering women, it's about challenging stereotypes, and it's about addressing unconscious biases that are too often associated with women's entrepreneurial leadership. In 2019, the initiative committed to allocating $3 billion in funding to women-led businesses in Canada over its first 3 years and has developed a robust online knowledge center, which I encourage you to explore. Embracing a culture of inclusion is key to making Scotiabank a great place to work and a great place for our customers to do business for every future. Now to why we're all here. Tonight, we are thrilled to welcome none other than Tessa Virtue to the Women of Influence virtual stage, a household name not only in Canada, but around the world. Tessa and her ice dance partner, Scott Moyer, first captured the hearts of Canadians at the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, where they became both the first North American and the youngest ice dancers to be crowned Olympic champions. They would go on to become the most decorated figure skaters in Olympic history, earning 5 career medals, 3 gold and 2 silver, along with several other wins on the world stage. After 22 years as partners, they chose to step away from the sport. Now retired from ice dance, Tessa continues to be a strong advocate for women's empowerment and works closely with Fit Spirit, an organization whose mission is to raise public awareness around the problem of declining participation in sport among preteen and teenage girls. As an ambitious academic, Tessa is now pursuing her MBA at the Smith School of Business and channeling her energy into her next challenge, becoming an entrepreneur. Let's take a look at some of Tessa's past highlights and accomplishments. Have a good night.
Everyone, and welcome to our first Women of Influence virtual spotlight series. And thank you, Laura, for being our presenting sponsor for Scotiabank tonight and bringing us all together. I also want to thank our host sponsor, Smith School of Business, our partners at Fit Spirit, our official wine partner, Two Sisters Vineyards, who have provided their 2016 11th Post wine for the evening, and our official hotel partner, Fairmont Royal York, where we are broadcasting tonight from the beautifully recently renovated Crown Suite. Originally, we were supposed to be doing this at the end of March, but we all know that our plans were put on hold, so we had to get innovative. Over the last several months, we have been working hard to foster the kinds of connections made at our live events and bring together inspirational role models to the Women of Influence stage, which brings us to tonight. We have hundreds of you, women, men, families, all tuning in from across the country, and we want to take a moment to acknowledge that whatever land you are on is the traditional territory of many nations and is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. So with that, let's get started. Tessa Virtue.
Hello.
Hello, finally.
I know.
We get to talk.
This is great. Thanks so much.
Oh,
for
thank
being
you.
here.
And I'm so glad that you were available to talk to us all these months later, given all that's been going on. So how are you? How have you been? What have you been doing to spend your time these past 6 months?
It's been a strange time. You know, much like everyone, I feel like I'm living different chapters of this COVID-19 experience. I spent a little bit of time out west at the beginning, and everything sort of stopped. So I was used to being home only 1 day a month. I was working and filling my schedule, and suddenly then I was in one place for a significant amount of time with actually no work on the horizon. And it was both daunting and really exhilarating. I found it to be a great opportunity to reflect, to take time to feel grounded and centered, and also just remember, what's important in life, and that's really just quality time with loved ones. I think, I hope across the board that is a given, and that's something we take with us as we move on from this and find our new normal, is that, it's that time with the people we love that really matters. I'm sure you found that too.
Oh, it's been such a strange time for all of us, and I think that one of the things that has helped a lot of people is having some sort of routine to structure their day. So do you have one, and can you describe it for us?
I try. It helps having school now. I'm studying, doing my EMBA at Smith, and that helps because there's always a purpose, there's a task, and there's an overarching sort of goal that I'm working towards. The graduation in May 22 is there, and I know, once I set that goal, it's a challenge, and I can sort of weave my way and navigate that a little more naturally. But I'm trying to work out. My sister is teaching me virtually, or sometimes now that we're in the same city, we can see each other. And
you're trying to work out.
I'm trying to find a structure of working out.
How many times have you been to the Olympics and you are telling us that you are?
But it was my job for such a long time. I have to admit that the pendulum swung and I went in the other direction. Anything that made me feel like an athlete, I just resisted. And now I feel like I'm at a point where I can realize, okay, moving my body, exploring that, feeling sweating feels good again. And I do know that I feel better mentally too when I'm active.
Do you work out every day?
No.
Really?
I just took 3 months off of working out in total because I think my body just needed a break, and now I feel invigorated and ready to get going again. But it's kind of fun because not everything needs to be functional. It's not only to be the best ice dancer in the world now. I can move for the sake of it. I can try boxing or Pilates or different kinds of things that I wasn't able to do before, when everything was so regimented and so structured.
So you mentioned time and, of course, regiment and structure. You started skating at such a young age, which tells us that you had to learn time management. How would you describe your relationship with time now? Are you good with lots of time? Do you need to be super busy?
That's a good question. I fill my time quickly. I'm old school, so I have a calendar that's, pencil and paper, and I fill it in, and it's like this puzzle. And I forget sometimes that I have to live those days. I actually have to act those out. But I would say I'm pretty good. I like having a sense of purpose. I like knowing where I'm going. And, from the time I was 13, when I moved away from home, I've always had a schedule that was very accounted for. Every moment mattered and was quite scheduled. I mean, there was a time I could have told you 8 years from now, August 22nd at 2:30, this is what I'll be doing.
Did you like that?
I grew accustomed to it. I think it's all I knew, to be honest. And at 13, I was also balancing, living away from home, taking taxis everywhere, budgeting for groceries, and working out, and being disciplined enough to do schoolwork. So I think it's inherent in me, or it comes kind of naturally just given the path that I've chosen.
So you gave up ballet to take up skating, and then you were partnered with Scott Moore. Tell us how that relationship came to be, and did you change your outlook on skating once you had a partner?
Oh, absolutely. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and I come from a very sports-oriented family. So I actually say that I'm the least athletic kid in the family. I'm just the black sheep, but I happen to maybe work a bit harder. I have some grit. I don't know. But skating was supposed to be for fun. My grade 1 class was going on a field trip, and I begged my mom to let me go to the rink to practice so that I would be good enough for the field trip. If that is an indicator of how competitive I am, I don't know what is. But my grandma dropped me off at the rink, and she said to the coaches, this is the activity Tessa does for fun. No competitions, no tests. And a year later, I met Scott, and things just kind of clicked. We were both competitive. I love to dance. So I think that's where my real passion was, but I was able to combine that with this sense of, a benchmark of striving to be, at that time, even the best in juvenile, and that really motivated me. So by no means did we show any kind of potential, though, I'll say that.
Really?
People look back and romanticize that, but we certainly showed no signs of greatness.
Well, what was it about him that led to this great partnership? And I know you were young, but would you say it was an instant connection, lightning in a bottle?
I would say that we worked hard for it. I mean, we didn't really speak for the first year that we skated together.
Come on.
But then we worked with coaches early on,
Yeah.
one of whom, Suzanne Killing, I would credit for creating the foundation of our partnership. I mean, at 8 and 10, we sat in the rink just away from the ice, and we talked about our goals and this common pursuit and a shared vision. We talked about communicating and how we could impact and affect one another, how we could be a support for one another, and it was then and there that we created boundaries also. So we maintained this really respectful partnership, and we never name called, we never blamed one another for things. And
I know you've called him your business partner.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of an unusual way to describe what many of us saw happening on the ice. We wouldn't look at you that way as business partners.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more to that because of what we did. We were telling a story on the ice, and even business partners don't spend that much time together. I mean, over 22 years, it was, 10 hours a day, 50 weeks a year. That's unprecedented, really. So there was a really deep-rooted level of care and consideration for one another, and honestly, I think that's what people saw. They saw this connection or this chemistry, but what was underlying that was, 2 decades of really thoughtful and purposeful work on that partnership. We're very different people, but skating brought us together, and we learned to maximize every moment together on the ice.
Was it both of your dreams to go to the Olympics? Do you remember who suggested it first?
I think so. I mean, I used to say that I wanted to go to the Olympics with Danny Moyer, Scott's brother.
Does he skate?
Oh yeah, he partnered me through some of my dance tests when I was young. But and I would say that I wanted to go to the Olympics to be a gymnast, but I didn't really know. I guess I had this sense of the world stage and the platform for that, and I think Scott probably figured it out a lot quicker than I did as far as our potential together. I think January of 2010, if I'm really honest, is when I thought, oh wow, we have a chance at this Olympic thing, because we were the underdogs heading in, and that's an example of how we balanced each other out really nicely. His confidence was always sort of a bolster for me when I needed it.
So, what would happen if one of you was having a bad day?
Oh, that happened quite often. I think we both went into the rink every day with the mentality of, how can I help my partner? How can I make Scott's day better? What does he need to be the best he can possibly be? I really thought that was my job. And we would go through these, intense training sessions. And in skating, it's a big deal to do a full run-through of a program, so a 3 or 4 minute run-through. And I think each of us would approach it in the same way of like, how can I make his or her job easier? What does he need in this moment to thrive, to flourish? And, that set a tone, and it came naturally to us, but I realized in watching a lot of other partnerships exist around us, it was unique. And it came to be an asset, and probably the thing that I would attribute most of our success to is just that kind of partnership. But, a little bit of positive attribution theory, and, it was a good combination of real determination for one common thing.
So did you ever, I'm sure you had a conflict,
Mm-hmm.
and how would you overcome that? You said that you learned how to communicate. Give us some of your strategies and techniques on that.
Well, the ice was a safe place for us always. So we knew in order to be the best, we couldn't waste 1 minute of ice time. And that didn't matter what was happening on or off the ice, whether we were arguing, if we weren't in a good place together, the minute we got on the ice, it was time to do our job. And so we were able to sort of step into these personas, and that was a nice little protected bubble. I think where we struggled for a while was starting the difficult conversations. So we learned that we needed to take those away from the rink, have a bit of a divide there. And we did a lot of communicating to the effect of, when you do this, this is how I feel. And, my feelings are hurt when. And it was a lot of that narrative about, one's feelings. But more importantly than, what do you need from me? Like those probing questions of, how can I be a better partner for you? How can I be a friend? Because as athletes, we like these proactive, tangible tasks that we can sort of hold on to. I think another thing that, upon reflection, we did pretty well was that we always promised each other that once we had addressed an issue, analyzed it, and come out with a plan, we had to move on. So it wasn't an option to, down the road, say, 6 months ago or 3 years ago or 15 years ago when you said or did this, that pattern has remained. no, we kept that in the past. And so we always dealt with what was at hand in the moment. And I think that kind of forward thinking served us really well because we weren't caught up in this drama of keeping score or, trying to compete with one another on any level.
You're describing some pretty incredible life skills that people don't learn until maybe their 50s, 60s, beyond, if ever.
Well, it helps having an Olympic gold medal weighing in the balance of your relationship, that does help. I realize most marriages kind of forget to have that goal.
Do you feel like all of those things that you learned with Scott, all of those things that you developed through that partnership will serve you in the rest of your life? And we're going to get to what's next for you coming up. But you must feel like that has changed you as a person and all of your relationships.
I hope so. I mean, I feel both incredibly lucky and grateful to have had that partnership. And also a sense of, I think it has taught me that if nothing else, it takes a lot of work. And you always think you're going to be the exception. And whether that's in a personal relationship or a business setting or even a greater team, because we had, in the end, about 15, 16 people that were helping us to be our best, strength and conditioning, on-ice coaches, off-ice, nutritionist, mental prep coach. I mean, there was a team looking to us to lead them. And we needed to empower those around us to help them help us be our best. So I think, I'm realizing now that some of those skill sets will come in handy. And I think it's just an awareness of where people are coming from. And also the narratives that we tell ourselves. I know with Scott, 22 years in, it was so easy to think, I know what he's thinking at every moment, and I know what he's feeling. But the minute I did that, I was in trouble because I could create this whole storyline in my head that wasn't actually accurate, and he would do the same for me. So we realized, that we needed to break down those walls and really communicate our vulnerabilities and use that to be a strength and an asset.
Do you miss him now?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Because that's a lot of time to spend with someone, and then you've kind of gone off and done your own things.
It's strange. It is strange. But, the nice thing is no one can ever take that away from us, what we shared. And we will always have that bond. Only Scott knows who I was, really, in those 2 decades. When you experience something so unique with one other person, it bonds you eternally.
That's amazing. I'm finally looking at my notes. I've just been so caught up in everything you're saying.
Throw those out the window.
So, exactly. So when it comes to setting goals and being the best, people say practice makes perfect. 100,000 hours or whatever it is to get to where you want to be. What would you say is your recipe for success?
Anytime in my career I felt like I had that recipe, things would come crumbling down. So I think I realized that there is no quick fix. There's no secret sauce. It's just a lot of hard work and a lot of preparation. And feeling like you could embrace every facet of the process, reveling in that hard work. I know now that it's not about the medal, it's not the podium, it's not about the recognition, but it's those 6 a.m. days in a grubby hockey rink of doing something that I felt was meaningful. That's where the gratification comes. So I think that's been the biggest takeaway is it's the gritty, in the trenches kind of work that is so satisfying. It's not always that shiny thing at the end that you're working towards.
Would you say that it was mostly hard work with a dash of talent, natural born talent or luck? Would you say it was 50-50? How would you break it down?
I think there had to have been some inherent talent there.
You're very modest.
To build on. But honestly, there would have been nothing we wouldn't have done to achieve greatness. There was no stopping us. And whether that was measuring our brainwaves every day or playing crowd noise before we took the ice to simulate the Olympics. Especially, and I often speak about kind of 2016 to 2018 just because that was sort of the peak of our amateur career heading into Pyeongchang, and every single moment of every day was spent simulating the Olympics. So by the time we got there, we had thought of it all. Even when we were announced the flag bearers for the opening ceremonies, we had someone mail the flagpole to us and the boots that we would have to wear, and incorporated that into our training routine because we didn't want to leave, any question marks as to how that might affect us the next day on the ice. So every tiny little detail was thought about, prepared for. I mean, we anticipated it, and I'm so glad that we did, because had we gone on the ice and thought, okay, we need the ice to be perfect, we need the crowd to embrace us, we need the judges to look or act a certain way when we skate by them, you can't count on that. You have to still be the best even when you're not at your best. And I think sort of embracing that, in the lead up to those games was critical.
So you never woke up to the alarm and thought, I don't feel like going to the rink this morning?
Oh no, I felt that quite often. I really did. I'm sure Scott did too. That's natural, because so many of those mornings I knew that I was heading into the rink to be in pain, and not just with an injury, but just like pain because training was so hard. And so there was an anxiety that I lived with 24/7 of being so worried about what training would hold or what that would mean. And I think that's just because anytime you're pushing your body to the limits, it doesn't feel good. Your brain wants to flee, like it's fight or flight, and you want to protect yourself.
That must be unique to athletes, maybe?
I don't know. You must get nervous and feel that on a day-to-day.
Sure, but I'm not addicted to pain.
Yeah, it's a bit masochistic. Yeah, sure. There's this, but I realized that idea of being comfortable within the uncomfortable is what served us ultimately too, because those nerves were a part of our everyday lives, and we also skated and trained with our biggest competitors. Always, we shared a coaching staff, and so every day was like the Olympics, and I think in a weird way that's what kind of got us fired up also. So sure, I woke up and didn't want to go to the rink, but everyone feels that. It's a job, and then you go and you're more proud of yourself for having done it that day too.
So along the way, apart from Scott, who pushed you or inspired you?
Oh my goodness, so many people. We really lucked out with our coaching staff, especially in Montreal at the end of our career. We worked with an organization called B210, privately funded, and basically they provided our service needs for anything off the ice. And it was integrated, and the communication was streamlined and collaborative, and it felt creative, and it just felt like we were all on this mission together. It was sort of us against the world, when people didn't think that we should compete, didn't think we should come back, and we had something to prove, and that was really exhilarating.
Let's talk about setback and disappointment. A lot of people right now are going through a period of reinvention, of self-doubt. This has been the year for dreams that were put on hold, dreams that were dashed. Some businesses had to completely shut down. Future Olympians that were planning on going to Tokyo have had to put those plans on hold. What do you say to those people that have had to postpone their goal during this time?
Gosh, I feel for them. It's not easy, especially in the athletic realm when you're planning to peak at a certain time, and it's so scientific, and I suppose that happens in the business world too. I just have this visual of, and I'm sure everyone has seen it, but that kind of mountain that up here is, for us, the Olympic podium, or maybe it's a big presentation at work or a promotion, but underneath it's all of the failure and the obstacles and the adversity, and it's what people don't see kind of below the surface. And I worked with a mental prep coach. I was kind of big on mottos and mantras as I was competing, so I would take the ice with a certain saying, and in Pyeongchang it was, we're unstoppable, listening to a lot of Sia. But for a while there, it was revolving around this notion of fear. And I had it in my head, FEAR, but instead it was face everything and rise. And I said that repeatedly, face everything and rise. And reframing those failures or obstacles as an opportunity for growth is huge. And not just expecting that, anticipating it, but embracing that as part of the process is also paramount to anyone's success, because that is what defines you. And I know that when we took the ice, I remember thinking, I'm so grateful we went through all of that hardship, because I didn't think our competitors really had. And I remember looking around the room thinking, they're just guessing. They don't know. And I could step onto the ice with confidence thinking, I can do this because I've done X, Y, Z. And I think about how we'll reflect on this time and how that will serve us. I mean, our toolkits are just overflowing right now with everything we're learning and how to adapt, be flexible, pivot, change our course. And there's a white space for the people who see it and who maximize and capitalize, and they'll be coming out, really strong on the other side of this. But it's the delayed gratification that we have to remember, why we're struggling now, and it's not easy. And it's the true leaders that will be able to sort of step up and rally the troops and forge through this,
You've had setbacks, you've had some disappointments. I'm thinking specifically back to Sochi. That was so public. Your fans thought that you had really been robbed of a medal. So how do you deal with adversity? And is there a moment that you can remember that you had to go into that toolbox that you just described, pull it all out, and put yourself back together again?
Yeah, Sochi's a funny one because we were personally content with our performances, and that was one of the most thrilling months of our lives, honestly. It was such an amazing experience at the games. So we left thinking we were retiring and feeling quite content about what we had done. But in terms of sort of finding that resilience, I'm thinking back to training with our Russian coach, Marina Zueva, in Michigan. And some days she would show up to the rink with a whistle around her neck. Mm-hmm. And the idea was for us to make it through a 3 or 4 minute run through, those big daunting run throughs that I was scared of. And every time she blew the whistle, we had to fall. And sometimes she would blow the whistle upwards of 10 times in a few minute span, and that's exhausting. But the idea was that we would get up, refocus, and accumulate as many points as possible despite the error. And that changed the way that we approached failing. We weren't just, hoping for the best and thinking, I hope we don't lose an edge and fall. We knew what we would do should that happen. And we were prepared. We had a plan. We knew in any which position how to get up and how to get back. And more importantly, mentally, how to reset and refocus, come together on the task at hand. And, as that relates to just the bigger scope of life and business, it's so important to embrace those little blips on the road. It's the GPS sort of recalculating, we're off course a little bit, here's the end destination, and that's a scary place to be, that uncertain, unknown, gravel road. But that's where we can grow to be better, and that's where the competitors aren't going. So be there, hope for the rain, get stuck, blow a tire, whatever it is. Hope for that.
Fall.
so that you know how to get back on the paved road, and once you do, that's a breeze.
Were you ever nervous?
That was a very weird analogy I just got off on, but thanks for running with it.
It was the whole transportation thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you nervous at the Olympics?
Terrified.
And how do you not look around and go, I think they might be better than us?
Oh, I did.
You did?
Constantly. And I mean, so we took the ice for our 5-minute warm-up, Moulin Rouge free dance performance. We knew it was our last competition, of all time. And we knew that we had a chance to win, but we also knew the judges really wanted to put us second or third or fourth. Given any little chance, we weren't really supposed to win. And we had our 5-minute warm-up, and we got off the ice, and we had 40 minutes or 45 minutes before we skated last.
Is that a long time?
It's a long time. Your body gets fully cold. Yeah, it's a long time, and it feels like 100 hours that you're just waiting. And we had our routine, which we had written down and practiced 100 million times of exactly the order we did things, and we knew exactly what our coach would say to us when and what we would say to each other. So that was very rehearsed. But had there been an eject button in that moment to get me out of that situation, I would have pressed it, because I just wanted to get out of my body. And skating is such a physical sport. I mean, mentally your brain can panic, but physically I also felt like I didn't have control of my limbs. I felt lactic acid building up before we even started. My lungs, I couldn't get breath. So physically, it was just sort of taking over. And Scott said to me, you know, look, kiddo, this is what we asked for. This is exactly what we want. This is the story we've been training for. We want to be last. We want the control at the very end. We want the French to go out and set a world record, which we didn't actually know they had.
Did you watch them?
No. We decided it wouldn't have changed our moment. It wouldn't have changed how we wanted to perform. We didn't want to play it safe or feel like we could attack more. It really didn't affect us. But we knew that they would do well. And that was the thing. We wanted to be the best when everyone else was also their best. So he was right in that moment. And I learned later that he was just trying to console me, and he too was panicking. But it did help in the moment.
That's a good partner.
Yeah, exactly. And we just found strength in one another and strength in our preparation. And we just kept saying to each other, we're unstoppable. We're unstoppable.
When you were on the ice, how did you feel?
In 2010, it's the first time I ever experienced flow. What positive psychology talks about, you know, when you're in the zone and you're feeling competent and confident, but challenged enough so that you stay focused. And it was as if time slowed down and nothing else mattered. I didn't notice anything else but the crowd, the judges. I didn't notice anything except for Scott. And we spent 8 years chasing that feeling and felt it in Pyeongchang for both the short dance and the free dance.
He felt it too?
I think so, yeah. We weren't perfect, but we knew that we wouldn't be. We knew that we needed to strive for excellence. And in one of the first couple of seconds of, I think actually both programs, we had like tiny little blips that only the two of us would have felt. And I remember feeling like, okay, that's good. Now we're going to focus in. Now we start. And it just felt so right. It felt like, I remember skating over the Olympic rings. My focus wandered a little bit, like, we're really here. We're doing it. And then I thought, nope, come back, you know, because that too I was anticipating, and come back. And we had our cues. And I think what it was is we weren't striving to feel any one thing, because your feelings lie. And
you were in the moment.
We were in the moment. So whatever it was, we were ready to embrace, but we weren't trying to defend a title. We weren't trying to skate out of our skin. We were just trying to do what we did every single day at home.
Did you ever recapture that feeling?
No, and it'll be interesting to see how I fill that void on such a scale. Maybe it's impossible.
So you're at the top of your sport. You decide to retire. What was that conversation with Scott like? And how did you know it was time?
Retiring from amateur sport felt right. We knew, after Pyeongchang that was it. And much like most big decisions in our career and in our partnership together, there wasn't a lot of back and forth. It was just, we both felt it. I think we lost a bit of that drive to push ourselves in the show realm. We had produced a tour which was really fulfilling on the business end, and I remember taking the ice at some point thinking, I much preferred negotiating this contract than I did actually skating it. And it's not to say we didn't enjoy it in the end, but we didn't want to go so far to not love it the way that we grew to love it. Mm-hmm. And we also didn't have the capability to train the way that we did for the Olympics, and it didn't feel good putting out material that was subpar. So I felt like we wanted to take ownership of that and leave on our own terms and in a way that we could be really proud of. And yeah, we were on the same page. It just felt right. It felt right.
And did you have a plan about what was next, or was it just not skating?
I think so. I mean, after we dabbled in retirement in 2014 and then came back, I spent a lot of time with my mental prep coach in the years leading into Pyeongchang talking about the transition. And I knew it would be difficult, but I had a great support team. I knew that I would do school. I knew that I had some opportunities in business, but that I wanted to earn some credibility and earn my stripes to hopefully branch off and do my own thing someday. it's a short window for Olympic athletes to sort of capitalize on that success. And I really wanted to dive into the corporate realm and learn the ins and outs of the structures of the companies that I was working with, and utilize each and every moment of that chance and opportunity that I knew was rare, especially in Canada. I would say I had enough of a plan to then leave room for dreams and leave room for saying yes to things that I didn't even know existed. Because I didn't want to identify myself as just a figure skater. I didn't want to be stuck as the girl in the red dress forever. And so in order to evolve, in order to move on, and in order to redefine kind of who I am and what I stand for, I need to put myself out there in different ways. And it's scary, but it's also, you know, a really exciting next chapter.
I think that says so much about your character, because I'm guessing a lot of people would be content with having been on that podium and having all of those medals. Like, I lost track, counting when I was doing my research, how many things you won. It says so much that your dream didn't end there, that you saw a second act or another stage, whatever you want to call it, and you're putting that same energy into it.
I mean, the pinnacle of my life can't be at 28. I know that. I know that this is just the beginning, and I feel really lucky. I mean, so many people are transitioning and changing careers, and this is just a chance for me to redefine myself and, you know, pick a new path and an avenue.
You could have branded yourself as, you know, Olympic champion, gone with the social media, done some endorsements, probably made some wonderful money to set you up, but you decided to go back to school. Why was school so important? Why was getting an education so important?
It's always been important in my family, and I've always admired that my mom went back later in life when she had a full-time job, 2 kids, and did her MBA, and she speaks so affectionately about that time. And I didn't want to be given an opportunity where people might think, you know, that's the ice dancer just catapulted into this business role. I wanted to, as I say, earn some credibility and understand the business realm from a lens that I haven't been able to experience it. You know, I have a really unique experience of the last 10, 15 years. And I see things through a different lens, but I wanted to get sort of a macro approach and, you know, even the verbiage and just that experience. I mean, it's important to me to start this next chapter with even a knowledge of leadership, and that's one thing that I love about the Smith program in particular.
Why did you? We should tell everybody. You chose Smith School of Business at Queen's. Why did you choose that particular program? Was there something unique about?
Well, I had been involved sort of on the periphery in that partnership between Smith and the Canadian Olympic Committee, and with Deloitte investing so much in the game plan program as a means to help athletes with that transition, it just seemed like such a natural fit. Not to mention the virtual program that they offer is top notch, like, you know, bar none. It's leading the way with their professors, and the access you get to such experience and knowledge is unparalleled. And the focus on teamwork, a huge focus on, and I don't know if any of my classmates are watching now, but hi, a huge focus is on the global virtual teams and how you lead. And at some point, you know, for me, as I'm thinking entrepreneurially, a big part of my job will be managing people. It's not just having this idea and, you know, trying to tirelessly pursue it. It's managing the right people, empowering the right staff, and creating this culture that can take us to some really meaningful places.
Would you recommend it for other women? I know a lot of people are weary about the time commitment.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, what's been great is that everyone is in that boat. Everyone is busy. Most people have families, and there's so much on the go. But it's a space and a time you can carve out for yourself that can really catapult you into the next echelon in the corporate realm. And you know, it's funny you mentioned women. I think women are maybe more reluctant to do that. But more than ever, it's the females in business and in leadership that need that kind of credibility. And there's such a great community and a network there that I feel so emboldened by this sort of safety net that I have. They really want you to succeed, and I know that I can rely on the team at Smith to sort of help me as I navigate these next steps. I would absolutely recommend it.
I had to go back to I'm getting so lost in the conversation. I thought, I better get back to my notes here and make sure I'm on time. You also are a big advocate for girls in sport. And I want to know about Fit Spirit. We have seen participation rates in young girls, preteens, in sports decline. What do you say to that? And for the moms and dads that are watching right now, and even kids, what has sport brought to your life, and why is this something that you're so passionate about?
Well, it's just heartbreaking that 50% of girls before they hit puberty are dropping out of sport, and they're not getting the benefits of teamwork and, you know, that sense of self-confidence and self-worth, goal setting. There's so much, even just the endorphins of physically moving your body and taking up space when we're told as females to sort of be demure and make ourselves small. Yeah. I think that girls are making those decisions based on this idea that they should act and look and be a certain way is gut-wrenching, and that's just actually not acceptable. So creating this support network where girls feel like they can try things and step outside of their comfort zone and make friends and connections and, you know, do things that might surprise them, set these crazy goals and work towards achieving them. That kind of self-worth and confidence is so key as we move forward and create the next generation of trailblazers. So the work with Fit Spirit, even with Barbie and their dream gap. I mean, when young girls are 5 years old, they doubt themselves and they worry about how they look and how they're perceived, and young boys just don't. So it's clear that, you know, we need these programs and they're important to invest in and to participate in. And we just want our girls feeling limitless. I want every young girl and woman out there to feel like she can chase after her dreams, you know, without having to apologize in any kind of way.
Are you comfortable with being a role model?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's certainly a responsibility that I take seriously. And I know that when I'm acting in accordance to my own values, that I feel good about myself. And I've been given this platform, and if I can inspire in some small way, then, you know, mission accomplished. I think that's a really wonderful gift to be given. It's at the center of everything I do, is really wanting to empower and inspire others, and that's sort of the mission statement that I live by, both personally and professionally.
So when your cup feels a little empty, how do you fill it up?
By filling someone else's. Yeah, doesn't that feel best when you're helping other people?
That's amazing. Okay, so we've talked about sports. We've talked about how important it is for young girls. Do you have any words of advice for parents who are trying to encourage their kids to stick with a sport? And it's so hard right now, but what do you say to those parents?
I think it's important to be a parent and not a coach. So
what's the difference?
I mean, you know, for me the rule is always, if you commit to a season, you have to see that through. But I always had an out. And we didn't talk about skating at the dinner table, and it was my thing, my love, my responsibility. I never felt that external pressure, and in turn that internal motivation, that intrinsic sort of fire, was able to burn so much brighter because it was my thing. And there's also just such benefit to having a well-rounded kid and athlete, you know? I think those days with the season changing, you switch up your sport, you know, those have come and gone, and we're so single sport focused so early on, but it's so much more than just excelling on the ice or on the field. It's about goal setting and teamwork and grit and adversity, and we have to experience that in different facets, and we just can't put the pressure on one. And I promise, if your kid is good enough at one thing, they'll be discovered and they'll pursue it. But I just see so often the pressure that comes externally, and I just always want to alleviate that, because, you know, it should be fun. It's sport. We're not saving lives. It should be fun.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I'm not sure, to be totally honest. I think what will be important to me is who I'm surrounded by. And in a business setting, I have this dream of building something sort of from the ground up, and it's a little blurry at the moment, the vision.
Do you have an idea of what
Not
kind
so
of
much,
business?
it's rough around the edges. But this sense of, you know, pulling a team together and working towards something that we really believe in, something that could make a difference, is enticing to me at the moment. That might change, and I have to be open to that. But I'm excited to leave a little space for magic. And as much as I want to define it right now and sort of, you know, dive headfirst into one sort of sphere, there's a lot to sort of to figure out and navigate, and I want to take my time, and I want to do it right.
I love that you use the word magic, because it's the word that so many people use to describe you and Scott on the ice.
Oh, wow.
So do you think that you will chase that sort of magic again? Will it be a different kind of magic? What's your dream?
I think so. I mean, I always wanted a life that was extraordinary, and I mean that only in that it wasn't ordinary. And that's just who I am. So whatever comes next, it might not be on that same scale or magnitude, but I hope that it's magical to me, at least.
Okay, fun questions. Before we get to some
Fun
audience
questions. Does that mean
questions.
some wine?
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it, really quick. What was the last book you read?
The Culture Map, Erin Meyer.
Okay, what food do you always have in your refrigerator?
Refrigerator condiments. I don't really have.
Condiments.
I always have ketchup and mustard and mayo, but I never really have like consistent groceries. Always have deep and delicious cake in my freezer, though. I will say that. Always.
What's the last thing you ordered online?
A bed for my puppy.
Are you a good sleeper?
Very. The best. Anywhere, anytime. In the car, if I'm in the car for more than 5 minutes, I'm asleep.
Love it. Okay, we've got some audience
Are you?
questions we have to. No,
You must not.
I'm
We have
up
a strange
early
schedule.
though, and
Yeah.
it's all.
That's like being jet lagged all the time, though.
Thank you.
That's not healthy.
Thank you for understanding
Yeah,
that.
I'm
Tessa.
surprised you're awake now.
Oh
still.
no, I'm up for you. We want to get to some questions
Okay.
from our viewers,
Okay.
and one of them is, what have been one of the biggest challenges of being a woman that you have faced in figure skating and in business?
I mean, it's interesting. I was a part of a very equitable partnership for 22 years, and we earned the same amount. We trained the same. Our accomplishments were all the exact same on paper, and yet how it was perceived or reported on was very, very different. And even now in business, and you must find this, and so many people watching now, it's different. People's expectations of you and how people receive or ask for feedback is different. You know, I was in a sport that was very aesthetically focused, and everything mattered: your hair, makeup, costume, your size, and you put yourself out there to be criticized. You know, from not just those 9 or 11 judges, but to the audience at large, and then to the internet. So I think it's hard. I know I think about young girls growing up with social media and
So hard.
how difficult that must be. But what we do need is to show some kindness, and we need a community for girls and women who, and that's what, you know, Women of Influence is really offering, is like, you know, let's uplift one another. Let's realize that there's room for all of us. And when we rise together. And I think there's such power in that. And I love that. I love the focus on that.
Okay, what strategies did you use to calm the anxieties that you simply couldn't control?
Breathing was a big one. Have you heard Brene Brown talk about the breathing, the 4 kind of, so I draw that box on my leg, which is like in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And I'm a terrible breather in general, so that does really help. Visualizing, plain preparation and work. Like, I think there's nothing better for anxiety and nerves than knowing that you've put in the work. You know, if you've cheated your way out of that, then it just doesn't sit well. And then communicating, like sharing those vulnerabilities. I don't, you know, as an athlete, we were always taught to just be tough, suck it up, smile your way through it, and kind of run yourself into the wall repeatedly. But the moment I realized that I could share, you know, this is how I'm feeling today and I'm just not up for it, or I'm injured, or there was such strength in that. And I felt like it allowed people to see the human side of me, and then we were able to operate on just a deeper level in general with our team.
So what's your motto these days?
Over deliver.
Over deliver. I like that one. Where'd you come up with that one?
It just sort of came to be. It's sort of something that I always try and do in every situation or scenario I'm in. And when I realized like that was something I could hold on to, something I was in control of, it was empowering.
Tessa Virtue, you're awesome. You were worth the wait.
Oh, I know.
It was so great to talk to you.
Thank you so much for such thoughtful questions, and what a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
It was our pleasure, our pleasure. I now want to hand things over to Elspeth Murray, Associate Dean of the MBA and Master's Program at the Smith School of Business, for the closing remarks.
Hi, thank you, Marcia, and good evening to all. Before we begin, on behalf of everyone in attendance, thank you, Tessa, for sharing your incredible journey with us. So many life lessons. And I made some notes, actually, just a few amazing ones. For more than 20 years now, which is amazing, Smith School of Business and Women of Influence have been aligned in our mission to support the leadership and advancement of women. And I really love the comments about, you know, there's enough room for all of us to support one another. Together with our presenting sponsor this evening, Scotiabank, we're so proud to have you with us tonight in the Spotlight series. It's kind of an interesting story of when I first met Tessa. I think it was about 4 years ago when we decided that it might be a great opportunity for us to work with the COC and offer Olympic athletes some scholarships to Smith, and some customized training for staff and other partners. And we had this incredible meeting where the former CEO of the COC, Chris Overholt, came for a meeting, and little did we know he had a secret weapon, and that was Tessa Virtue, who came and really talked about what it was like to be such an accomplished athlete, and then sort of what happens after you've been at the top of your game in your sport, and you have to figure out kind of what's next. Well, Tessa, it's been 4 years, and here you are enrolled in the Exec MBA program, and we couldn't be more pleased. And I have to say, I teach on that program, and I am really looking forward to, I think the course is actually in February. And I will remember what you said about the acronym FEAR. Face everything and rise. So for sure, I'm going to bring that back into the class. It's interesting, high-level athletes, high-performing athletes actually have many of the attributes that we look for in our programs at Smiths, and you touched on so many of them. You know, leadership, determination, hard work, having a goal in mind, coachability, and resilience. You know, and I really appreciated your comments too about taking such great care and being very purposeful and thoughtful, you know, in the relationships that you build. And that's really important to us at Smith and in all of our programs. So Tessa, we're thrilled to have you in the Smith family, and really honored, you know, for this next stage in your career. And we look forward to being part of that journey as well. So thank you again, Tessa. It was just amazing. And amongst the many things that I wrote down, reveling in the hard work is a key takeaway as well. And to our audience, here's what you can do this evening in just a few moments to learn more about how a Smith degree might be part of your journey and maybe the next chapter. And I know we have some current students on the program with us this evening. So please take some time to join us in one of the breakout sessions with Teresa Perez, who's Associate Director of Recruiting and a former Team Canada speed skater, Lauren McGuire, who I also had the great pleasure to teach. And they're going to be in the information session. You can ask questions on everything about what it's really like to be in the program, what the teams are like, and the overall, what we like to think of as an amazing experience. So on behalf of the Smith School of Business at Queen's and Women of Influence, thank you all so much for being here. It was a truly uplifting conversation. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the evening.